Welcome to Frap Rap. I'm your host, Aaron Goldman, aka AG, and the artist formerly known on AOL Instant Messenger as GDogg with 8 Gs. Yes, 1 through 7 were taken. 25 years ago, I was an AE at an ad network called L90, and my biggest client was Starcom IP. Every Thursday, I'd invite everyone in Chicago at 35 West Wacker to meet me at the Cozy across the street for coffee. And for each person that came, I'd do a freestyle rap about them. Hence the name, Frap Rap. Each episode, I track down another OG IPer to reminisce about the good old days and see what they're up to now. And my guest today is Erin Petty. Erin, welcome to Frap Rap.
Hi, G. How are you?
I am great. EP in the place to be. It is so great to see you. Thank you for doing this. Where are you at the moment? Where are we catching you?
So I am physically in my home in Salina, Texas, in my front office.
Cool. And Salina is where in relation to cities that most people might know of?
So it's about 45 minutes north of Dallas and kind of like a smallish, farm town, except that everybody's like moving here now. And it's like one of the fastest growing cities in the nation, which means it's time for me to go soon.
So if you're watching this, first of all, don't move there because we don't need any more, congestion. Or feel free to make Erin an offer if you want to buy her place.
Yes, there you go.
So we're going to catch all the way up to present day and figure out what brought you to that part of the country. But let's for now zoom back to the IP days, as has been the theme of season 1 of Frap Rap, and tell us, when did you start at Starcom and what was your role at the time?
So, I started at Starcom, I want to say it was probably 1999 or 1998. And when I started, I was a supervisor. And when I left, I was associate media director.
Okay. And what account did you work on at the beginning? Do you remember?
So it's funny. I think most people know me for network solutions. And I was thinking back when I was like, wait, I think I worked on some other things. So when I first started, I worked on Morgan Stanley Dean Witter. Back then it was Morgan Stanley Dean Witter. I think it's now just Morgan Stanley. And I worked on some Disney business. I just remember that so specifically, like Disney multicultural business or something, very small account. And then pretty quickly got moved over to network solutions.
Did you work on Nintendo at all? I feel like maybe you and Pranav might have worked on Nintendo. Now, do I have that wrong?
I wanted to work on Nintendo, but no.
Okay. And U.S. Army? You never did U.S. Army?
No, wasn't on that group either.
Well, I'll keep going down the whole org chart till we hit one. Actually, so the org chart I have is from 2005, and by this point, I think you were already. Yeah. So I don't want to skip ahead too much. I also have, of course, my trusty Rolodex from back in the day, and wouldn't you know it?
Oh, no way! That's so funny.
I still have your card. No title on here, which is interesting. You must have been in between roles.
Well, so I have to tell you how I came to Starcom because it's kind of an interesting story. I came from Starcom regular, so traditional advertising. And I was on the GM business in Starcom regular, and I had worked like crazy to get to associate director level. And I had this big fat office with big window. And I was doing these meetings with GM, and they started bringing in these IP people into our meetings to talk about digital advertising. And I was like, who are these good looking, crazy smart people coming into my meeting, talking about things I don't know about? I'm like, I need to know them. I need to be one of them. And so somehow I got a meeting with Rashad. Rashad was like, before you come over, I want to meet with me. And so I remember distinctly sitting in his huge cubicle, in window cubicle. And he was like, okay, I'll bring you over. But one, you're going to come over as a supervisor. You're not going to have any direct reports. You will come over as an associate director. And I was like, okay. And then he's like, also that big fancy office you have, we all have cubicles. So you'll have a cubicle. And I was like, say what now? And he's like, yeah, you'll be in a cubicle. I'm in a cubicle. Few people have offices, but most people have cubicles. And I was like, okay. So it was, I think the reason why I didn't have a title was that they were sort of waiting until they could officially like give me the title, make sure that I, was okay with the scenario. And thankfully I was not that shallow that I was like, wait, I'm coming over if I'm losing my office, and made the right decision and came to an amazing group.
Yeah, because you got to be with all the good-looking, smart people.
Yes, exactly.
I love it. That's such a glow. Good time for me to sip from my mug here, which the people who are watching on YouTube can see. It says, "You are my favorite." So, cheers to you. And I look forward to the apartment call at the end when we switch over to our solo cups.
Oh, yay.
So, outside of, trying to get into the group, like what was it about those early days with internet digital emerging that kind of made you say, hey, I want to I want to go into that? Like what was compelling you about moving in that space?
Yeah, I mean, I think there was something about that group where I just thought, they're doing something that's very kind of innovative. And somehow I just knew that that was going to be sort of the wave of the future. And honestly, a big part of it was like, they're talking about things that I don't understand. And I'm kind of a lifelong learner. So I'm like, I need to know this. I need to understand this. So, but it was also a lot like working at a startup, which was kind of cool. Like traditional Starcom was very regimented and had all the rules and regulations, and IP just felt really like startup-y and cool and fun. So, yeah.
Yeah. And so, and then you went and worked on Morgan Stanley. Speaking of rules and regulations, so it was probably not the client where you could do the most experimentation. But do you remember some of what they were doing in the early days? I mean, were we just talking like banner ads, maybe some email list rentals to affluent individuals? Do you remember any of the playbook?
I don't remember a ton. My biggest memory is going with PJ McGregor and Marshall to the offices in New York in the World Trade Center, which was wild. And giving a presentation in front of all these like guys in suits and like this big, huge conference room. And I was so insanely nervous. I think I did a terrible presentation. I like wasn't talking loud enough. I like kept forgetting to move the slide. Like PJ and Jeff kept going, speak up, speak up. And I was just like way too nervous. So I I unfortunately have not the best memory of working on that client. And then I don't think I worked much longer before Network Solutions came along and I got moved over there.
Cool. And then Netzel, of course, was probably the biggest spender at IP, just in terms of pure dollars. Talk to us about that account. And I mean, I certainly remember it. I think I dedicated a wing of the house I bought with Lisa to my commissions from Netzel. So God bless. But yeah, talk about that account because it was massive.
It was huge. And I actually think that was the count where I did get promoted to associate director because working on that business was grueling. The client, which I saw Jeff's episode and he mentioned Aggie Intetta, she was intense. I liked her a lot. She liked me, but I remember distinctly like Chris Negron, Cappy, worked on the business with us and she loved Chris. And like, so anytime we had to tell her bad news and be like, tell Chris to tell her because she'll be like totally fine with it if Cappy says it. But she was very intense and she very rarely said thank you for things. But I remember one time we did something. I don't even remember what it was, but she sent over an email and it had like one sentence. She was like, Erin, we are pleased with this. And we were like, whoa!
Did you like print it out and hang it on your cube?
I did. I really did. I like hung it up in my cubicle, like, oh my gosh, she's like loving us now. So yeah, it was intense, but really fun. I think we trauma bonded in the best way. Everybody who worked on that business.
Yeah. Well, and it was a huge team too. Again, by '05. Actually, no, still on here at '05. And actually, at this point, it looked like Steve Governale was running the business, and he's actually going to be our next guest after you. So keeping it in Texas. So we'll get his perspective too when you hand it off the baton. But compared to some of the other rows on the org charts, you can see there was like multiple managers, multiple associates, multiple
Yeah.
ICs. I mean, you were just trafficking all sorts of ad units, pretty much just plastering the web because back then it was the .com gold rush and Netzel sold domains and helped you build websites. And so pretty much
Yeah.
their target was like anyone with a computer, right?
Yeah. And I remember when we did when we started doing power ads, you guys were
Oh,
power ad people.
yeah,
Okay,
yeah. Great
remember when
recall.
it crashed their servers and Aggie, the client, just went completely nuts. So we ended up having to do pacing reports where literally we would say, okay, on this day you can only serve this many power ads on this day. And literally it was day by day by day, we would give them a preview of what and God bless Kevin Lang. He was the owner of the pacing reports, super wicked smart dude. And I just remember that moment. It was oh my gosh, power ads were crazy.
Well, and I remember getting that call that said we had to pause them, and I was like, "Oh, okay, Lisa, hold off on that down payment here. We may we may have it." But the thing with the power ad was we weren't launching like a creative or a splash page. We were literally
Right.
launching the NetSol site in its own window, and so
Right.
it was literally like launching the site in a million different places on a million different machines. And yes, I think
Yeah.
we may have overloaded the system, so we had to kind of. And this was before like ad servers had any sort of like automated ability to cap and pay, so we had to kind of do it
Yeah.
manually. And
Yeah.
yes, God bless
Yeah.
Kevin Lang, and we'll have to get him on the pod to talk about
Yeah,
that and everything else.
do. And the wild thing was they were giving us so much money, we were having a hard time spending it with particular websites, which is a good problem to have, but it was a problem. So it was really power ads that had the inventory for the budget that we were being given. So it was crazy problem to have.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, and that was the model, of course, for us at L90 with the network was amass as many small and large publishers as we can to be able to create the reach, and then you can start to whittle in, especially in the case of someone like a Network Solutions, which is very performance based. You can just start to optimize, but you need to have a wide enough net before you started your optimizations. Otherwise, you're down to like one small placement on one site, and so
Yeah.
that was kind of
Yeah.
the trick back then. All right, so then at what point did you end up leaving the group, and what was your next move?
So I loved Starcom IP and I wanted to stay. And I hate saying this, knowing that so many people from Chicago are going to watch this and listen to this, but I will redeem myself in a second. I did not like Chicago. I was not happy in Chicago. So I basically left just for a different quality of life. But what I learned is that I'm the type of person that doesn't love a big city. And so I just figured out that I love being way out, away from everyone, where there's cows and pastures and stuff like that. I'm just happier there. So that was the reason why I left.
And did you go straight down to Dallas? Was that the move?
I started in Dallas. Yeah, I was living in Dallas, also kind of in a suburb. And then I had my daughter and realized that, I wanted to move even further out. And so, where we are is really a very small town and well, starting to change, but we know all of our neighbors and all the kids are outside playing and running around the street, barefoot, bikes and stuff. So that was kind of what we moved to get closer to.
Yeah, and of course, when you moved, we're talking the pre-COVID days, so there was not like a templated work from home type of culture. So, were you having to balance a commute, and how did all that kind of work out?
Yeah, no. So I've been really lucky that I've actually worked from home a good part of my career. So I'll just I actually left marketing and advertising about 8 years ago. But when I was still doing that, I kind of bopped around on the sales side and on the client side and agency side. And a lot of those roles were remote, especially the sales roles. But I found I was just traveling way too much for my young daughter. So I was looking for something to be closer to home. And thankfully a lot of work from home roles, so it was good.
Yeah, so you were
Oh, I should probably
once
say,
again an early pioneer.
yeah, I should probably say I actually worked for Steve Governale at AT&T for a little stint. So yeah, that was really fun. And then in one of my sales
So did he
roles,
move out there before you then?
no, after. So I
After,
was
okay,
already
got it.
here, and I remember him talking to me about, Texas, what's it like? I'm like, oh my gosh, love it. So yeah, he ended up moving out. And then in one of my sales roles at Turn, I worked for Wendy McGregor. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I had a few touch bases with IP folks along the way.
Yeah, it's certainly a common theme that's come up in these is how just that network and those bonds that were created, continued to pay dividends for folks throughout careers and life. And so what are you up to now? What keeps you busy? What are you excited about looking ahead?
Yeah. So I mentioned I left marketing and advertising about 8 years ago, and I started as a technical program manager at Warner Media, and that grew into a global technical or a global privacy compliance role across all of Warner Media's global brands. So, HBO Max, CNN, basically making sure that they're adhering to privacy legislation. And then Meta reached out to me, and I performed a similar role on Facebook app, which got into AI governance. And I left Meta the end of last year from the Superintelligence Lab. Got a very clear understanding that I don't want to help build super intelligent AI. And so I started doing some AI advocacy work, launched a consultancy, have about 3 clients where I'm helping them with AI compliance. But I have some new career news that might be happening pretty soon that I can't share just yet, but just watch the space, as they say.
All right, very exciting. I love a good teaser. We're about, I think, on a 3 or 4 week delay on publishing these. So maybe by the
Okay.
time this airs, people can check your LinkedIn and get the updates. But very
Yeah,
excited for you. And of course, it sounds like you're right in the midst of like this revolution and what people need to be thinking about. So certainly the type of skill set and approach that every company needs to be focused on. So
for sure.
good on you. And yes, we will stay tuned. Before we get into our apartment crawl speed round, just any fun memories, any stories you want to share back from the IP days?
Yeah, well, I'll say I was there at the Life's Too Short night. It was wild. It was awesome, but I won't share that one since Jeff shared it already. I think my favorite memory, I have many, but one of my favorite is the time that none other than Gary Coleman was in our sales meeting. And I don't even remember what vendor brought them, maybe Vogue, or maybe you remember.
UGO.
UGO, it was
Yep.
UGO, yes,
Yep.
to our
Dave
sales
Herman, I
meeting.
think, might have been there at the time.
Yes. And I just remember like us being in a meeting, and at the time at Starcom, and they probably still have this, the conference rooms were like a solid wood door, but there was like a window in the middle. And I remember watching people walk by from the outside. They're just walking by and they glance over and they're like, wait a minute, is that Gary Coleman in there? It was like the best. And then I think even afterwards, he went on a boat cruise with us. And it was just, I mean, it was just so indicative of just how wild and random and awesome Starcom IP was. It was just one of my favorite memories.
So I love that. And I have the backstory there. And actually have a picture of, he also came into the L90 office and I have a
Oh,
picture. We'll put
nice.
that, we now have a website for this fancy show. So people can go to fraprap.com.
Oh,
You
cool.
can see the org chart that I've been referencing in the episodes, and we'll post the picture of Gary Coleman at L90. So basically, if as it was told to me at the time, um, he had fallen on some hard times financially,
Yeah.
and UGO, they were like a gaming network, I think,
Right, right.
and they had helped him basically auction off a bunch of his stuff to help make money, and then they paid him to go around and visit clients as like just a celebrity endorser. And so and I remember there was like some pre-meet like rules that we got, and it was one, you can't make him, you don't ask him to say the famous
Yes.
catchline. What you talking about, Willis? He was sick. He would not do that, and he would not
Yeah.
enjoy when people ask. 2, don't ask about his parents. And I never found out why. I never, of course, asked him why. And 3, don't get him talking about trains. For some reason, he was obsessed with trains. And once he started talking about trains, it was like 5 minutes later and you couldn't, escape the conversation. So very, very random facts. But yes, it was, we'll have to fact check this. Hopefully some people listening can tell us. Was it Dave Herman, UGO? And yes, I remember the boat cruise. I think might have been the SEMA boat cruise that they brought him on.
That's right.
And
that's right.
And you know how they say like most celebrities, TV personalities, like when you see them in real life, they're not as big as you think. Like like Tom Cruise. I mean, you kind of always knew that he was short, but in real life he was really short.
Yeah, he totally was. And it's funny you said that about his tagline, because I remember in the sales meeting we asked him to say it, and of course he wouldn't. But on the boat cruise, I think we probably need someone to fact check this, but I'm pretty sure we got him to say it. I want to say he actually said it, but maybe that was
right.
I'm not sure.
Get a couple cocktails in him, and all of a sudden the rules go out the window. That's awesome. Great memory. Good pull there. Okay, are you ready for our apartment crawl?
I am.
All right, so shout out to our producer, Rob McEvely, who always dubs in some nice music here. We've got our solo cups, and oh my goodness, I see we've got, this isn't the standard red solo issue, Erin. What you got? Is that a pink for Petty?
It is a pink solo cup. It was literally all I had in the house, but I think pretty on brand for Petty, I'm just saying.
It sure is. All right, well, cheers. So these, we're just going to do speed round and quick answers, starting with, and this will end up being the title of the episode. What was your handle on AOL Instant Messenger?
I think it was something really boring and lame, like pettye.
Petty. Okay. Yes. Well, no, that's good. I mean, that means you got in early because you didn't have to add 8 P's or random numbers at the end. Yeah. All right. Pettye. Who was your first boss at IP?
So listen, I thought it was Shelby, but once I started really thinking through it, it was PJ and Marshall.
Okay. Who was your favorite client?
It was definitely Network Solutions. And again, as I mentioned, Aggie, she was tough, but she was fair and I learned a lot from her. So yeah, I loved working with her.
Might be interesting as like a addendum to the season if we get some of the clients on to dish on the Starcom IPs. I also remember Melanie Mitchell from Network Solutions. I think she was.
Yes,
I think,
I remember Melanie.
Yeah, she was a little more junior when she started, but then I think by the end of it, she was like running the business. Shout out to Melanie too. Okay, if you could have worked on any client other than the ones you were on, who would you have liked to have worked on?
For sure, Nintendo. I thought they just looked like they had the most fun. They had the coolest stuff that they got to go to and do, and business, and it was fun. Looked like a lot of fun.
Maybe Governor Alley worked on that. We'll have to check with him.
I think he did.
Okay, cool. Yeah. All right. Present company excluded. Who was your favorite vendor?
Probably Maddie Matera at the time, but I think May now. She's just, always a blast, always fun to hang with. So yeah, enjoyed Maddie.
Shout out Maddie. I know she's been listening too because she's been commenting on LinkedIn. Good. So she'll be excited. She'll be excited to hear that answer. Talk to you. So you mentioned you have a daughter. Tell us about her. What is she into? And anything else you want to share on the home front?
Yeah, she's the light of my life. She's 13 years old. Her name is Fallon, and she is theater kid in all her school theater productions. She plays piano. She's an amazing artist, and actually has a pet portrait business. So if anybody's interested in getting a pet portrait done, she's really, really good. And she's learning to play drums, which is kind of fun. And we're negotiating the possibility of having drums in the house in a way that would not make me want to move out of it.
That's awesome. Maybe a she shed out and back where she can do her drums.
Yes.
That's awesome. So she's on the pre-advertising and media track. Can you see her ending up in an agency someday?
She's well, if AI doesn't take all the creative jobs, maybe, but she is truly, truly a creative, which is amazing to me because I couldn't draw a straight line with a ruler, but she is just so artistic and creative. So I could see maybe on that side if AI doesn't take over all that work.
That's awesome. I mean, she is. I'm sure this isn't why you picked the name, but there is an ad agency called Fallon that so it's kind of in her.
Yes.
It's in there somewhere if we can bring it out.
There. Yes.
And what are you most excited about for the year ahead?
I think so. I'm doing, as I mentioned, I'm doing a lot with AI governance, and that is just an area that just continues to grow and be just fascinating, and keeping an eye on the legislation, and particularly the new state legislation around chatbots, and whether chatbots can act like certain ways with minors. Having some regulation around that is so exciting. It makes me so happy, and I'm just looking forward to doing more in that space and making sure that these AI systems are doing right by us as humans.
Right on. So I can pretty much guarantee that you will be one of one in answering the question about what are you excited about with the answer AI governance. Said no one
this
ever.
Is probably true.
But
this is how lame and boring I am. Hey,
but no, well done. It's a great niche and obviously well needed. All right. So now we get to close the show. It's time for the Frap Rap. So this is paying homage to back in the day at Cozy. I would rap off the top of the dome for each person that came. Of course, when we were in person, I could pick up on, cues about what's going on in the room. We have to kind of manufacture it a little bit here. So do you have something you can write with? And can you give me a few keywords to work in here?
I have props.
Oh, you brought props. Okay. All right. I thought that was just going to be a vocal thing, but
it's not nostalgic props, but at least maybe it'll help something. Okay, let's see if you can see.
Okay. Here we go. EP in the place to be with AG, and we gonna do it all the way. Yeah. We gonna do it like our girl Beyoncé. What would she do? I don't know. She'd probably twirl. She's the cowgirl now, doing those country albums in Dallas. We ain't mad at it. We pull it up. It's the Anna style. We gonna get the profile with the sunglasses, working it backwards like molasses. My words come out, the nouns and the verbs. I don't mean to shout, but I'll tell you what it's all about. We hold the cup. We say, what's up? What's up? You know what you think, girls pretty in pink. EP, Erin Petty, palms are sweaty. Mom spaghetti, we going down because we ready. It's been fun having you here. We got to do it again, and this is clear. We'll save that for another day. AI in the place, governance is today. Yay! Well done. That was awesome. I wanted to go into, I actually got to see Beyoncé in Paris last summer. She brought out Miley for that one song they do together, Two Most Wanted. It was unbelievable. She went on like 3 hours late. The French are not the most patient of crowds. Yes. But we waited out. It was it was unbelievable. She puts on a great show, and that's a great mantra. What would Beyonce do?
It was, and so I have to tell you, so as part of my sales stint, I worked in sales for Essence magazine, and so I got a chance to kind of like be around the family, the family, but be around them a little bit, like the Essence Festival when she headlined. And I remember one time I was like in a meeting at Essence, and I'd been in a previous conference room and I'd left my purse in there. So I go back to go get my purse, and I look in the window, and it's Beyonce and her dad meeting with the publisher of Essence in the meeting. And I was like, I need my purse, like my phone's in there. And I'm like, you can't just like knock on the door and be like, can I get my purse?
Well, what would Beyonce do? She'd walk right in there.
Do you want to walk in there? I did not. I went and got my boss, and my boss did it for me.
I love it. That reminds me, last story, and then we can really close it out. But so back in the day, so L90 was trying to represent Britney Spears as she was launching her own website, BritneySpears.com, and her mom was her manager. And we had the two of them in the office. Keith Kaplan, I think, was the one meeting with them. Shout out to Cappy. And don't think we got the business. I actually think they went to DoubleClick, which is our big competitor at the
Yeah.
time. They wanted some, what at the time was unrealistic, crazy, guarantees for ad revenue and stuff. And, she was already on the rise, but obviously we didn't know how big she'd become and what kind of CPMs we could get for that inventory. So, all right. Well, Erin, this was awesome. Thank you so much for coming on the show. Appreciate you. Keep doing your thing. Keep doing whatever Beyoncé would do.
Yes.
And shout out to Fallon too. Can't wait to see what she does in the future.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Cheers.
We'll talk soon. Bye.
You're listening to the Mediaocean Podcast Network. For more of our shows, visit www.mediaocean.com/podcasts.